Welcome to the Business Credit and Financing Show. Each week, we talk about the growth strategies that matter most to entrepreneurs. Listen in as we discuss the secrets to getting credit and money to start and grow your business. And enjoy as we talk with seasoned business owners, coaches, and industry leaders on a variety of topics from advertising and marketing to the nuts and bolts of running a highly successful business. And now, to introduce the host of our show, financial expert and award-winning author, Ty Crandall.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm really excited you could join us because today we have two special guests on the phone with us. I think in all the podcasts we've done, this is only like the second time that we've had two awesome guests on at the same time. And these two are partners that are going to be able to give us assistance in a couple different areas, talking about acceleration of business growth and how you can really take your current level of growth and expedite it by maybe 5-10 fold. And something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is the process of getting a merchant account, what you should know. And again, that means a lot to me personally because we've been going through a merchant account change, and these guys help prevent the nightmare that we're in the middle of. So let me introduce you. With us today is Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, he's a psychologist whose previous companies have sold more than $30 million in consulting to Fortune 500 firms such as Novartis. I know I just pronounced it right. Novartis. Thank you. Could not get that out. American Express, AT&T, Whirlpool, Panasonic, Lipton, Kraft, Bausch and Lomb, and Nabisco. You may have also seen his company's work and or theories in the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Chicago Sun-Times, the New York Daily News, Crains NY Business, Bloomberg Radio, ABC or CBS Radio, UPN or WGN TV, and numerous other high-profile periodicals and shows. For the last 10 years, Dr. Livingston has focused on helping small businesses and entrepreneurs with sustainable growth and marketing strategies. And also with us is his business partner, David Oliver. Now, David's a long-term hedge fund consultant who's also run his own seven-figure business in mental health, helping more than 300,000 families to overcome the challenges associated with serious psychological diagnoses. He also has consulted for hundreds of small businesses to help them engineer growth strategies, manage risks, and leverage undervalued assets. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show today.
We're very happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
I'm excited to have you guys.
Having us on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you guys here. I mean, this might end up spilling into two shows because you guys have expertise in two different areas, of which really we could spend, hours talking about just one of these, let alone, 40 minutes or so talking about both.
Whatever you need, we'll come back.
Good. Well, let me ask you this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's your party.
Well, I'm glad you guys could be here. So let me ask, what got you guys into the sector that you're in now, and how did you guys first come together as business partners?
Well, I have a long history of helping entrepreneurs. I started in Fortune 100 consulting, but the last 15 years or so, I kind of jettisoned a lot of that work because well, for example, I love the work, but I would have to fly to Tokyo for a 1-hour meeting on a moment's notice. And I just didn't like that kind of lifestyle. And sometimes, like you do all that consulting and do a year-long project, and then you meet with the CEO, like for Bausch and Lomb, for example, you meet with the CEO and you have a 15-minute presentation, you give them a half a sheet of paper and they go, "No, I don't think so." And so I just wanted something a little more meaningful, and I found working with the small businesses more meaningful. And so I was teaching. I was doing the seminar circuit and I was teaching, and I had developed an advertising agency, and David was one of the attendees at one of those seminars. I think it was on pay-per-click advertising. And he was the only one asking questions. Remember, the room was full, and they put up a microphone, and he just stood there asking question after question after question. And so I said, I got to get to know this guy. And then I got to know what he was doing, and because I'm also a psychologist, and he was working in mental health, we had a real overlap. But David will tell you his story, but essentially, he was growing a business in mental health, and it was growing really, really fast. And, I think he was doing something like $500,000 a month. And all of a sudden he got a call from his merchant account company that said, "I'm sorry, we can't process you anymore. And by the way, there's probably nobody else that wants to process you either." and we had the hardest time for about a year researching the whole industry and figuring out Like, why in the world wouldn't they want this extra volume? And aren't they making a lot of money? Aren't we all on the same side? So everybody assumes that, the merchant account underwriter makes money when you make money, so they want you to make as much as possible. But for various reasons, that's not necessarily true. And, he learned so much about all the bloat in the industry and some of the shenanigans that go on, and how it's really, most people are paying extra, 25, 50 basis points on every transaction, which doesn't sound like a lot, but, if you look at the 5-year value of that, especially if you're in a company that's doing, 6, 7 figures, you're talking about an employee's salary or, a nice car. You're really talking about money that should be in your pocket and the merchant account's pocket. And then beyond that, you need a money-moving partner to make things happen in the online world. You have to be able to process. And entrepreneurs put all of their energy into generating revenue, and they're trying to plug all the holes in their sales pipeline. And then when that finally happens, you don't want to be stopped by your merchant account. You have a growth strategy you can count on. And he got involved really in matching the right types of businesses with the right type of merchant accounts. And he was talking to me about it, and I had all these entrepreneurs that were following me, and I started matching them up. And it's just a win-win for everybody, because we almost immediately, find money for people. We don't make money unless we do. And, and it's like money on the table indefinitely. It's not just a one-time thing. It just goes on and on and on. So everybody's been happy about it, and we've decided to make a little bit more of a push to get the word out. And David, how did I do? Did I tell that story okay?
Yeah, so the only other part with that was I actually got started in direct response marketing a while ago, and I learned that once you invest $50, you make, more than $50 or whatever, wherever you want to be, you can invest $200, then $500, then $1,000. So back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we exploded with growth with a couple different supplements, and it went wonderful. It was just amazing. We didn't have any problems at all in terms of merchant accounts. So fast forward years later, we were in another area, and our growth exploded, and I got a call that said basically they were going to turn off my merchant account. So that was very stressful, because we were doing over $500,000, $600,000 a month. We had to find another provider, but then providers won't take you. With that kind of volume, I was going to the wrong people. I was going to big banks, which then are a problem. So it significantly hurt the business. So I had to drop the volume down. And then I started learning the ins and outs of merchant accounts. And then I have many, many friends that do tremendous volume. And then they had problems too. And then they had problems. They didn't really understand why they had problems. So I started to eventually accidentally find a great company. And then I started to realize there's great ones and there's bad ones, like in any industry. And then I just thought about it, that it would be a great business to be in, to help people to be involved with businesses that grow very fast, with people who are big thinkers. I love that part of the business.
Nice. Awesome. That's great. So, what do you guys do now? Does your company do both? Do you guys deal with merchant accounts or coaching, or do you guys kind of deal in both areas on top of, it sounds like, your other businesses as well?
So we have a business that's helps people get merchant accounts and provides consultations for individuals for merchant accounts. But also the good news is, we have additional businesses. So I sell a lot of different products all over the world, health, wellness, information products. So I'm in the game and I know what's going on. And I think one of the challenges with getting advice from people about growing and how to manage growth or merchant accounts is that they're not in the game, and they might have been in the game in the 90s or in the mid 2000s, but they're kind of out of the game. So I pride myself in being a doer and being someone who's involved in day-to-day activities, selling stuff and growing a business, hiring people. We just have hired 4 people in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and we're hiring 3 more people. So we're growing, we're hiring, we're making things happen. So we know the difficulties of what it takes to grow a business.
I still have a coach training organization, and we train business and personal coaches to practice their craft and market their practice. And I also have like David, I'm in the game, just not training the game. So I have another business which has nothing to do with anything that we talked about, but is also growing fast, and where I apply my trade. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your guys' success. You guys have definitely, it sounds like, set a path for, helping a lot of people in the merchant account side. So let's start there. I mean, why should a business, even a brand new business, even consider having a merchant account?
So the best way to think about it is like a merchant account enables you to take credit card payments. And in today's day and age, I mean, now more than ever, like you got to take credit cards. I mean, back when I started, you could sort of get away with taking checks kind of over the phone, but you need to take credit cards. Most everything online is via credit cards. Bitcoin is not big enough now, and that makes it easy for your customers. And when things are easy for the customers, they're going to spend more money with you.
Have you guys stepped in and done kind of an analysis of people what kind of spike they saw in business when they weren't accepting credit cards and moved to a world where they were?
They had some studies, and I haven't seen any recent because I think the assumption is that for online businesses, it's a given. But I know many years ago, I got a person who was taking only checks and cash. This is more of an offline, but a little bit of online business, and they increased 100% because they had a very expensive service. So how many people wanted to plunk down, $1,000 or $1,500 versus to put it on a credit card, 3 payments of $500, get the points, and then not have that money come out of the account? Hands down, it's significantly more. It's a no-brainer.
I haven't looked at those studies in quite some time because it's been rare that I find someone who, is not taking credit cards in some way after doing business online, and most of my clients are online businesses. But the studies I recall said 28.2%.
Okay, so about 30% increase just for somebody taking credit cards versus not.
Yeah.
That's huge. What are these hard to get? I mean, it seems like, is it just me, or is there a whole shift in the industry that is somehow making these accounts harder to get? I mean, maybe it's because our business has grown and that's the reason it's more difficult to obtain one, or it's on the other side. But is it just me, or is there really a shift going on where it kind of is making it more difficult to obtain these accounts?
Here's the reality. For you, it's more difficult because you have more volume and you're growing, but they're signing up, I don't want to say dead bodies to get, but literally anybody for a merchant account under $10,000 a month in volume. That's a no-brainer, very easy to get. It's low risk. The bank is signing that up all day long. But when you need $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month, $250,000 a month, they give you a hard time. They look at what industry you're in. They model everything out. So that's where it's tough if you're with the wrong company. So for less volume, $10,000, $15,000 a month, you can get that no problem without even blinking an eye. But when you start getting over 50, that's when the scrutiny starts to happen. And there's a little bit of scrutiny between 15 and 50.
Sure, okay. Well, in that world, let's say under 10 and above 10, what kind of risk factors are they looking at to determine approval?
So the risk factors, they're looking at what industry are you in, what are you selling, what's on your website, what are your financials, and what's your track record? So we could break that all down. Like, what are you selling? Are you selling e-cigarettes? Are you selling supplements? Or are you selling something they understand, like a catalog website that it's 100 different products that, you're selling plumbing stuff and they understand what plumbing stuff is. It's on a website. There's very little sales copy. They like that. Ebooks, they're increasingly friendly to. But moving beyond that, the next thing that they wonder about and they ask about is what's on the website. So on the one hand, you could be selling 150 different health supplements, but there's 3-line descriptions. It's very generic. It's very bland. It's kind of like a catalog company. Or you could be selling one supplement that does $5 million a year and it's on lose weight fast. And then there's, guarantees, there's racy language, there's testimonials. They scrutinize that more because they feel there's more claims. They see there's more guarantees, there's more promises to the customers. Customers who see more promises will refund more, they'll charge back more. This is how they think. The other thing they look at is your track record. So if you're doing $5 million a year with a website that has a lot of claims, but you've been in business for 5 or 10 years and you don't have any problems in your track record, you will not have a problem getting a merchant account. But if you're new and you have no track record, you're going to have a problem. Because if you need a lot of volume and you've got really, let's call it aggressive sales copy combined with no track record, they're going to scrutinize you more. Now, to a lesser extent, bad credit, bankruptcy, those types of things, honestly, are not looked at that much. Like, you need a decent credit score, like over 625, over 600, 610. They're okay with that. But they're primarily looking at what are you selling, what's your track record, what's on your page.
Okay. So industry really relates to what you're selling. Those type of things are all kind of come back almost to industry. What kind of products you're offering, what kind of industry you're in.
Exactly. So, like, for example, weight loss, frowned down upon. You know, anything e-cigarettes, lottery, those are all the ones they look down on. But things like, what's something that they really like generic catalog site, coaching these days they like, because that's very simple, as long as it's not like big programs, $10,000, $20,000 with, you know, a lot of payments. Continuity billing is another one. They like membership sites as long as they're not free trials, but they don't like free trials. Those are not good. And when I say not good, it's not that you can't get approved, because you can get approved. It's just that you're going to have more of a difficult time, or you've got to go with the right company that can grease the chutes for you.
Well, and David, also, it's not really a black and white decision. Sometimes we can get people approved for a lower amount, and then they develop a track record for a couple of months, and then they get the amount that they wanted to, right?
Right.
So let me ask you this. I mean, when it comes down to this, what is the reason that they scrutinize? And this is something I've always wondered, right? Because we're talking about certain industries they scrutinize. What is it against these industries? So, for example, financial services, the whole sector of financial services sometimes is considered to be high risk. Why is it? Is it really because of default rate, or is it because of other factors?
It's because of the people who came before you. So in financial services, they had a lot of stock stuff, like Forex stuff, whether you were using money to buy I don't really understand Forex, but like, let's say you were putting money into a system and then you charged back against that merchant, or, which was very big, I had a friend who's doing, he did like almost $50 million in Forex, selling courses on how to do Forex, but he got a lot of refunds, chargebacks, issues. So they start to figure out, okay, this group has problems. It's in this industry, so now we're going to red flag it. Now this group over here doesn't have any problems, and we're going to grease the chutes because they're historically not a problem. It's kind of like they understand restaurants and, like Dairy Queens and stuff, because they've been around, they know the numbers, they've changed plus or minus 5%, so it's understandable. Like, there isn't like a run on Dairy Queens where people, they buy hundreds of dollars of ice cream and then charge back and and create all these problems. Like, it's not like that at all. So they know, like, Dairy Queens. Now, funeral parlors are an area that they deem high risk. They don't know them a lot. A lot of funeral parlors don't take credit cards, which isn't smart, because a lot of people don't have $10,000, $20,000 to go ahead and, plunk down on a funeral. So increasingly more of them are taking it. They're new to the industry. The industry doesn't know them, so they deem them high risk. And that's because they just don't have a track record. Ultimately, funeral parlors are an example of companies that inevitably will become low risk with time. Financial services, there's a lot of shenanigans in that industry, unfortunately. Even credit repair, perfect example. Look at credit repair, look at the promises that many, let's put it, overly aggressive people have made, And then they've kind of wrecked it for the people who do it the right way. Now, I know several people in credit repair who are just the most ethical, wonderful, problem solving. They're wonderful for their clients, but they get a harder time because of everybody else in the industry and all the people who came before them.
And that's a perfect industry to use as an example, I guess, to dive deeper into the question I'm asking, because I owned a credit repair company years ago, right? And I dealt with this, all the issues of getting merchant accounts. And I remember the first merchant account I had shut me down after a year, and we had no chargebacks within a year, which it was pretty tough to do. We were doing some volume as well. But what's interesting is that, when you look at that industry, it's one of the lowest of BBB complaints. I mean, plumbers are well above that industry with complaints. And everybody I've talked to that sets up those accounts say the opposite, say that, the performance of those accounts, the chargeback rates, tends to be one of the lowest in the industry. And one of the things that I'd heard was, look, the bureaus really don't like them, obviously. They push Visa, MasterCard. Visa, MasterCard pushes the banks, and that's what happens. Is there any basis to that? Because I've never actually talked to anybody with any numbers to support, and this is just an example, but that industry really is high risk. It just seems like it's not the default rate that's driving it. There's other political factors involved.
Yeah, it is. Now that I think about it, I don't know any clients or even people who came to me who had any problems. But as soon as, even for us, if we mention credit repair, it's immediately like, oh my God, well, it's one of those, it's a high risk business.
Right.
And there's really no basis. I'm just going through my head. I got to tell you, way worse than credit repair, 20-1 is online tech support. Online tech support is really what people think credit repair is like. Credit repair, I've seen statements, they don't have chargebacks. Online tech support has a lot of chargebacks. And they're actually frowned down upon, not as much as credit repair, but you're right. I think that might come from the people who did it way, in the 80s, credit repairs had a long run of unscrupulous people back in the day, and then just the banks don't really like it because it seems, I think it might come down to it seems unrealistic, but anybody who's ever worked on their own credit or understands the system would easily know how you could repair someone else's credit. It's just simply taking off the bad stuff, which a lot of it's wrong, and then also helping somebody get good stuff on it for some sort of fee, and that's a completely legitimate, helpful, wonderful business. And I know people in that business, they don't have any problems at all, but they do get charged a little bit more, but not that much more.
So when it comes to that, talk to me a little bit more about rates, about reserve accounts. These are some things that a lot of people that are looking for merchant accounts have on their mind. Is it the risk, the industry and such that really helps determine those two things as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, rates and reserves are all negotiable. And if you get a reserve and they say they're going to hold it for a certain period of time, sometimes they'll say hold forever. Sometimes they'll say hold for 6 months. Sometimes it'll be a rolling reserve, which means that after a certain period, they give the money back to you. It might be a 6-month rolling. So they take money this month, and in the 7th month, they give the money back to you. Everything's negotiable, and when you have a track record, you can eliminate all of that. So if you start with a reserve, in 6 months you could say, you know what, can I have half a reserve or no reserve? And then in a year you could say, you know what, I've done a great job, I want no reserve. So that's number one. And then the rates are really just set by kind of the industry and their kind of their best guess. So we always work with banks that aggressively offer rates because we don't want people leaving. We love our clients and our customers. We want people to stay forever. Some banks will take a business like, say, credit repair or online tech support, and they'll give you almost a 5% rate, and they just don't care. And then they'll say, well, hey, they probably won't even know, and we'll sock it to them. So rates are always negotiable in the future as well. So all of it's negotiable, and all of it's based on your original profile that you start with. What are you selling? What's your track record? What's on your page? And what we're predicting you probably will do.
So what about ease of use? I mean, in my world, in the funding world, places like Cabbage, as an example, have come about, and they've done a really good job of simplifying the loan process. Do you see that in your world? Because I see Stripe, for example, which I don't know anything about them, but I love the fact that people can now process cards on their credit or on their phone, because now I don't have to pay cash at all these crazy places like food trucks I used to have to. So are these guys making things easier, or the things that people should look out for with those easy type of solutions?
No, they are becoming more and more easy, and it's the people in the industry who want to do right by their clients. They're forcing change over time. Even the big banks are going to become less onerous, less of a pain. They're going to have better deals because there's so many people offering better deals and better service. Service is very important and not shutting people down. So we're in a transition period that as time goes on, it will be better and better for the merchants for sure.
So what type of things should business owners be looking for if they're out there trying to get a new merchant account?
You want to look for, do they have clients like yours? That's a great question. Do you have clients like us? Okay, then what are the terms? Like, what's the rates? What's ultimately, the reserve, if any, which a lot of them, you don't need to worry about a reserve. Also, can I expand my volume? What will it take for me to expand my volume? Who do I call and what's the process? How many clients do you have, whoever you're talking to, that have expanded their volume in the last year? And what's been the success rate? So here's how the question goes. Someone's talking, you say, hey, Joe at the bank, by the way, how many of your clients actually, have expanded how much they're processing in the last year? Well, none. Well, that's a red flag, because now do you want to be the first person that goes from 100 to 250 and now you have to pioneer it for somebody else? And then if he says, oh, all of our clients are growing and increasing all the time. All right, great. What's the process? Well, all you're going to do is call this 800 number, let them know how much more they're going to get back to you, and then do this and that. And then if you have any problems, call me. That's a perfect answer. Most people never ask that up front, so they kind of get into something that's bad. It's almost like marrying somebody and you didn't know they wanted to have 6 kids and 7 dogs, and they wanted to have 2 houses, and they wanted you to work a straight 40-hour work week. You should have known all that up front.
So if somebody already is listening and they already have a merchant account, should they have a second? Should they compare rates? I mean,
Absolutely. They need backups. The industry frowns down on that. But look, should you have a backup, something that's critical in your business? I mean, they have spare tires in cars for a reason. Are tires supposed to blow? No. But do they have spare tires? Yes, because the tire is a critical part of the car. And I believe in backups. And I also believe in everybody should get their rates checked, because it's free money. If you can get a better rate with as good of, if not better service, that's free money to you. And remember, the discount rate that you're charged is off the top. So for somebody who, let's say, is paying almost 5% or 4%, if they can get it down to 2%, that's a lot of free money to them. It's free money.
And if you're operating at a 20% margin, 2% is a 10% increase in your profits. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and you guys see that kind of shift with people that you're looking at that probably already think they have a good deal, and then you look at them and end up getting something completely different.
All the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's another thing, too, is that, there's fees for chargebacks. There's fees for transaction fees. There's all kinds of intercountry fees. There's all kinds of fees going on, and you want to make sure they're all good fees. Like chargeback fee, you could get hit with a $30 chargeback fee when you really should be getting a $15 chargeback fee. I've seen banks charge $35 chargeback fees, and this is how they get people, right? You go to the bank, the big bank, right? Big Bank Inc. Oh, here's a merchant account. You scroll down, and you're like, whoa, what's this $35 fee? Oh, that's for chargebacks. And then you say, wow, that's really expensive. And then they turn around and they say, well, you're not going to get any chargebacks, right? You got a great business, right? And then they try to talk you into, well, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to get charged back. So you shouldn't agree to that. You should say, hey, I don't care. I got a great business, but I'm not agreeing to bad rates, sir. So drop that number.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things you guys do. So do you guys work with a lot of different providers and then basically go to work to find, your customer, the one that's best for them, the one that's going to get them the approval and the best rates and terms?
Yes, absolutely. And then most importantly, the biggest match is not the rate and terms, because you can go out, and I think you've had this experience where you've gotten a great rate and some great terms and they turn you off. You want to make sure you're with a home where they know who you are and what you like, what you're like, and then they give you great rates versus they're just signing up anybody and they're like, oh, 50,000, no problem. We're going to give you a 1.6% rate, no problem. We'll give you a $15 chargeback. Everything's great. And then all of a sudden you get 4 chargebacks and they say, well, none of our merchants ever get 4 chargebacks in the first 90 days, so we're going to shut you down. Because we've never even heard of a business like or seen a business like you. That's what you don't want.
And how can people prevent that? Because it seems to me like there's 2 types of merchant accounts. There's ones that put you through all this scrutiny in the beginning, and then, you're okay after that. And then there's ones that just automatically approve you, and the minute you start to do any volume, then stop depositing money into your account as they go through an underwriting review process, which sometimes takes weeks or months, and other times they decide they don't want to work with you and then hold all your money for months before releasing it. I mean, you guys probably have heard these horror stories and seen them, so what should people be looking for and asking to make sure that they're not making a mistake there?
Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to make sure you want to find out, who do I communicate with the status of my processing? Like when I increase, if we have a spike one day, if we got some higher average transactions, so it's usually an 800 number, you call in and you let them know. The more information, the better. This is not hide and seek where you're hiding. You want to tell, they see everything. You want to let them know. And I always let them know I provide more information than less information. And then what happens is they note the account. So when the algorithm flags the account, they read the notes. So if they say, oh, this guy called in and he said he's going to be doing more volume for 3 or 4 days or this or that, they say, oh, okay, no problem at all. This is great. No problem. They let us know. It's like when they see things out of the blue, they're almost like, oh, you didn't know that you're going to be getting a lot of volume, so that means you're not on top of your business. That's a risk. Versus, oh, you let us know that next week you're going to be getting more volume. You might have a little more refunds. Okay, we feel good. Like you're on top of your business. You're responsible. We feel good about that. Or you say, hey, you know what, Mr. Bank, our volume's going to be up 30% this month. Is that okay? You know what? Yeah, sure, that's okay. I'll note the account, sir. No problem. It all goes wrong with the wrong bank or not letting them know. And just what I did back in the day is I just let it rip. So I was just generating sales. I never even crossed my mind. Literally never crossed my mind.
The other thing is that it's all about matching your particular business with the right underwriter, the right account, and that's why it's really better to work with a broker who knows dozens of underwriters and can ask you the right questions to figure it all out for you. Either us or someone like us. But it's a very difficult thing for most businesses to do on their own because they just don't have the time. It's overwhelming to figure out how to generate the income. It's overwhelming to figure out how to grow your team, put customer service procedures in place, and manage operations and accounting and all that kind of thing. So most businesses, they develop a psychology of, well, this is only 3% of the transaction, so we'll just deal with it. You kind of do need someone on your side. You kind of do need someone to represent you and put all the factors together and make the right match for you. It's become too complex, and there's just too many other things for the business owner to manage.
Yeah, and we deal with that in our world too. I mean, when it comes to financing, you could definitely go directly to, a bank. But you're probably going to get denied when you could have got approved at better terms, because if you work with a broker that deals with all lenders, they would know the right and the wrong ones to go to. And that's Yeah, and that's exactly what I've seen with merchant accounts. It really is who you know. If you know somebody good like you guys that knows what they're doing, then you're going to get better rates, you're going to get terms, you're going to have a much better chance of approval than denial, and you're going to be able to kind of avoid those crazy situations where your account just abruptly gets shut down with no notice.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think that's a perfect example. I actually talked to an entrepreneur. He owns a detailing business. He's been expanding. He's doing very well, but he gets money on the side. The whole thing with some cash and that whole deal. And he said that he couldn't buy a house. Young guy, he's about 30. And I said, you got to go to a broker. And he was kind of like, well, what do you mean? And I explained, go to somebody, explain who you are, what you're like, and then they'll know where to get you a loan. Don't feel like you're trapped just because you went to Bank of America and they just frowned at you because they don't understand your entrepreneurial business self. Go to a broker. So that's what he's going to do now, and it's the same type of thing.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, what I want to do is, and I was going to shift gears, but I really do honestly think that we're going to do a second interview because there's so much that you guys know in this area, and I still have some other questions, and there's so much you guys know on the business growth side, the acceleration of growth, that I'm going to have you guys come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the acceleration of growth side.
Sure.
But sticking with the merchant account side, what's the process? How long does it take for somebody to go through from application to initially get approved for an account?
It can take as little as a week. For bigger clients, we find they're a little bit slower getting some of the information we need, like let's say previous statements. Like we had a guy who's pushing $1 million a month. He took about 2.5 weeks. He was asking for literally from like 300 and something thousand a month. And then he wanted $1 million a month, but he had no track record of $1 million a month, but we got it for him, but it took a little bit extra time. I'd say right around the week for new people, for older people, right around 2 weeks.
And what should people be cautious of, or things they should be doing right, or what they should be watching to make sure that if they need to switch merchant accounts or get a new one, that they're going to have the best success in doing so?
You should be called, if you've already gotten called and you've gotten like a little bit of a threat, maybe a letter in the mail, you got a call and they've said, oh, we're going to give you a reserve, or you've got a bad feeling from them. This is what I always hear from people. Then you got to start looking. And I can't stress this enough. You got to start looking, even if you have no problems now. And I'm not just saying this self-serving. Even if you don't have anything to do with us, for your own good, just so you're never faced with what I've had happen, what you've had happen, with lots of other friends where you're stuck. And I got to tell you, I will say in some weird cosmic fashion, I feel like when you have other options, they actually treat you better than if you have one option. Even if they don't know, it's like probably because of posture. When they called me about my account, I thought I was going to faint. Like I was driving on the road and someone called me and it came up as like out of area, and I was literally speechless. I like rambled to the guy. I didn't know what to say. But looking back, if I was like, oh, okay, sir, we were actually thinking about leaving anyway, no problem, I bet you he would have said, well, let's see if we can work something out. I have this feeling, because I know the psychology of people, so I can't stress that enough, is to have the backup, make sure that you have something to fall back on, and then just make sure you're very honest with your business as you move forward, getting another account or a backup. Just say everything. The person you're talking to, unless it's a big bank, if it's a broker, they're like your priest, so to speak. You tell them everything. You got bad credit, you do have a little bit of a chargeback problem, you occasionally get some big refunds, you do have spikes that are out of the blue. Let them know, so then they know up front, like almost like if you went to a lawyer, you don't want to minimize what you're telling your lawyer, and then all of a sudden in court, it's like, aha, what about this? And then everybody looks bad and dumb. You want everyone to know up front what's going on so the right home can be secured for you.
As we wrap up, guys, And that was great parting advice. So that might be the parting advice. But what's your parting advice out there for anybody that's looking to get a new account or, possibly compare rates or shift from an account that they're having now, or maybe even just get a backup account?
Just do it now. The one thing I will say, do it now. Do it right away before you're desperate, because when you're desperate, we even struggle when people are desperate. Like, I've had people come. Can you imagine this? 250,000, 220,000 a month of volume, and they need an account in 5 days.
Yeah. And that's real. I mean, in my world, literally 2 months ago, I was on vacation, which is the first time I've taken a vacation in, I think, pretty much my entire life. And I got the call that our merchant account was shut down, and I'm exactly like you. I'm like, I'm flabbergasted because we'd been with the company for 2.5 years. No notice. Just all of a sudden, we couldn't process credit cards. So for everybody listening today, there's a lot of things to keep in mind here. First of all, you have to have a merchant account. You just look shady if you don't accept merchant accounts in today's world where it's so predominant that most companies do. And I don't know about all of you listening, but I know me, I have absolutely chose to not do business with companies that don't accept credit cards, such as restaurants, because it's just weird that they don't. Secondly, you have to have at least one backup account. I can tell you from experience that I have had no chargebacks for a year plus and had accounts shut me down out of the blue. So you are never safe in this world. You have to have a second or third account, because when you process credit cards, you are dependent on your ability to process credit cards. And as you just learned here with David and Glenn, what they're talking to you about is when you lose that account and you don't have a backup, then you become desperate, and then you are ripe to be taken advantage of. You're going to pay higher rates. You're going to pay reserves. You're going to have a prolonged process of approval. So just make sure you get that backup second or third account, and make sure that you check your rates. I mean, for us as a company, this is one of our largest expenses we pay in a month is our merchant account. So again, it makes a lot of sense to compare rates. I turned down the ability to compare rates because I was loyal to the company I was with. And you know what? They dropped me like I was a hot rock after 2.5 years. So don't even, get caught up in that trap. Make sure that you're doing these things. Trust me from experience, it's in your best interest. Guys, where can everybody listening go to learn more about how you guys can help them?
merchantaccountwizard.com.
Okay, so that's merchantaccountwizard.com. Anything else you guys want to throw out there before we wrap up?
The only last thing I want to throw out there, another pet peeve of mine, is if you are taking credit cards, make sure you take them all. You're always going to bump your sales, and don't skimp on American Express because they charge a little bit more. The more cards that you take from people, the more revenue ultimately you're going to bring in your company. And I can't stress this enough. Don't have what happened to Ty, myself, and so many other people. There's a dirty secret with, high growth and revenue is don't have your accounts. Don't have the bank call you up and basically jam you up. Get backup accounts for sure.
Yeah, and guys, everybody listening, I mean, I go back and listen to this again, because everything these guys said, I've sat here and nodded my head the whole time, because I've learned the hard way without having, experts like this tell me all these things before I have learned the hard way. So make sure that you visit merchantaccountwizard.com. Again, check it out. See what can happen. Can you get your first account approved? Let these guys look into it. What kind of rates are they able to get you compared to where you are? Get that second account, that third account secure. Spread out what you're processing. So if you have a problem, no big deal. You shift to another one. It gives you the power versus giving the actual bank the power. So guys, thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to jump into everything else you have to teach, but we'll get you guys on again to talk more about that.
Oh, this is great anytime.
All right, so make sure everybody visit merchantaccountwizard.com so you guys can learn more. And just so you guys know, I practice what I preach. As soon as we end this call, I will continue the conversation with these guys that I began before the call about them taking a look at what they can do to help us as well. So I'm taking the step. I think you guys should too. merchantaccountwizard.com. I'll also make sure that this link is on the show resources page. So thank you guys once again, and thanks to all of our listeners for listening in, remember, none of this means anything unless you take action. So make sure you visit merchantaccountwizard.com and get with these guys to see what they can do to help you with your merchant account. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thank you, Ty.
You've been listening to the Business Credit and Financing Show with your host, Ty Crandall. Watch for our next episode to get even more insight on financing and growing your business. And don't forget to check us out online at creditsuite.com for even more business growth strategies.